Hello everyone, I'm Scruffy at Scruffy Tales, and this is the War Zone. And in this video we will be taking a look at some recent drone footage from Ukraine involving a CV90 storming Russian positions. And it's very unique footage because we've rarely seen videos of the CV90s on attack, or in defense for that matter. We have the famous video sequence when Russia knocks one out. We have another video sequence when a CV90 follows an M113 into combat. So these types of videos are very rare and far between, to say the least. So that's why it's really interesting to seeing this one where a CV90 is involved in close range combat as they're taking Russian trenches. So before we're moving on, the link to the original video will be available in the description. So if you want to watch it all in one fluent sequence, click that link. I will not show the video because YouTube apparently doesn't like showing combat footage, and you'll run the risk of not being able to monetize the videos and what have you and stuff like that. So no moving images. I will show you snippets of the video and talk. So here we go. Now, first off, very interesting. This is the third unit that we've been told are using CV90s, the 14th Mechanized Brigade. And annoyingly enough, for some reason, they have a Danish flag as their insignia. What the fuck? I am not at all okay with this. So please, Ukraine, change the fucking colors of that flag. God damn it, you're using Swedish vehicles. This is a matter of pride. And yeah, get your shit straight. Apart from that, the 14th Mechanized Brigade, very interestingly enough, apparently is located in the far north outside of Kupiansk, close to Synkivka, that small town where we have seen Russia tried so many assaults the last couple of days, couple of weeks, and also where they've tried to push in from the east into the valleys and what have you. So this is the area around between Yahidne and Synkivka. This is where we have the 14th Mechanized, and this is apparently where we have a bunch of CV90s helping Ukraine to hold the front line and denying Russia any chance to make any significant advances. And let's see here. Here we go. And yeah, so the video starts off with we have a tank, presumably a T-72 or something of the kind. The CV90 back here, and they moved along the windbreak. And then you have Russian trenches in this windbreak here. And they are rolling up and they're standing still as the tank begins to open fire on the Russian positions. Now this does seem a bit precarious because, you know, there could be Russians hiding here. This is how they knocked out the CV90 last summer. They had a guy hiding in a windbreak like this. He opened fire on at a range of 20 meters or something and struck the CV90 straight in the front. So standing still like this is a bit precarious, to be honest. And if we take a look back here, it doesn't appear that anyone is standing in the hatches. And this is exactly why Sweden added hatches to the vehicle. We're going to move on to the next image. As you can see here, this is what Swedish soldiers are taught to do. Standing up in the hatches behind the turret to offer flanking support. So if the Ukrainians were to have troops standing up here, then the troops could, with machine guns, keep an eye on the windbreak and letting the gunner know if, all of a sudden Russians popped up behind them. So then they could subdue the enemy with machine guns, the turret could swing around, the vehicle could turn around, and then engage the enemy point blank. Not the case here, and I suspect the reason is drones. This setup here, I'm pretty sure that Ukraine is avoiding having troops standing up like this because the risk of drones dropping in from above, bypassing the armor if they hit soft targets like soldiers, and then detonating inside of the vehicle. So this may be a thing of the past, having mounted combat like Sweden has relied upon for so many years, so many decades. But now that we see drones becoming more and more commonplace on the battlefield, it wouldn't surprise me if fighting mounted from hatches like this may be a thing of the past. So the two vehicles, they have driven up to the enemy position, and the tank opens fire twice at point blank range into the Russian trenches. And this is basically what armored doctrine has been, at least in Sweden, for, I don't know, 60 years, where you rely on tanks and a troop transport to advance together on an enemy position, firing on that position to allow the troops to get in close, and relying on a tank and a APC or an IFV to support those troops with extreme firepower up close. Now, from this point on, for 2 or 3 minutes, or I don't know, maybe 5 minutes, the audio is going to be a bit off because the microphone is busted, and I didn't notice that until after having recorded for a couple of minutes. So just bear with me. The audio is going to be a bit busted, but then it's going to go back to normal after a couple of minutes. So, all right, please bear with me. I'm so sorry, but yeah, just so you know. Now, let's see, here we go again. And having fired 2 times, the tank then begins to turn around and fires yet again into the Russian trenches as it's turning around. And as that happens, the CV90 begins to cover the tank as it repositions, firing with the 40mm Bofors into the Russian trenches. The CV90 has been standing still for quite a while. Not something you want to do. You are a easy target, not only for drones, but if there's an enemy vehicle, maybe a guy with an RPG sneaking around. Standing still like this is not what you want to do. So if you want to be nitpicky, you may have wanted the infantry to have dismounted at this point, get out of the vehicle, and then get into this area here and find cover. Because then the infantry, they are in the fight and ready to go and support with anti-tank weapons, with machine guns and what have you, further suppressing the enemy down here in the trenches, and potentially even being able to help out against an armored vehicle popping up somewhere. Not what the Ukrainians are doing. The infantry are still in the CV90 as the CV90 engages the targets, and as the tank turns around and moves back, firing that one last shot into the trenches. The tank moves away, and then the CV90 rolls up straight up to the trench lines, firing the 40mm point blank into the trenches, and causing untold havoc among whatever Russians may be hiding there. And then the CV90 comes to stop. It keeps firing. The Bofors just keeps pounding the enemy positions even further down the line at this point. And the squad dismounts, and they don't rush for the trench line. The squad leader brings them to a safe, what he considers to be a safe spot. We're seeing it from above, so it does look a bit dangerous where they are, a bit out in the open. But nevertheless, the squad leader gathers his troops, makes sure everyone is ready, everyone is set to go, and then he sends them into the trenches to hunt down the enemy, to kill them point blank range. And this is what the CV90 was originally designed to do. It was built for this very thing here, driving up to the enemy positions, stopping only 5-10 meters away from the enemy trenches or the enemy building or whatever, to allow the dismounts to get out and charge into those enemy positions so that they can then hunt down the enemy face to face and kill them at point blank range in close combat. So, I mean, yes, you could be nitpicky and, ask the question, they could have dismounted troops earlier. The squad maybe should not have set up in the open like we're seeing here on the image and stuff like that. But fuck's sake, we're drinking coffee at home and watching this on our computers. Like, these guys are making split-second decisions in the heat of the moment. Things are bound to fuck up at some point. The main thing is they rely on firepower to suppress the enemy, to get into range, and then they breach the trenches and begin the assault and start clearing out enemy positions. And appears to be a successful assault involving a tank and a CV90 just pounding enemy positions with the 40mm Bofors. And then you have Ukrainian armored infantry, Panzerskytte, bringing hell and wrath and what else you may think of straight into those Russian trenches. Right. So sorry for the microphone being busted and the audio getting messed up, but I think it should be okay from now on. So moving on. Right. So where was I? I think I was about to talk about the squad. So yeah, one interesting point is that we can see that the Ukrainians have a squad of 7 soldiers. In Sweden, the CV90 dismount squad is usually only made up of 6. But here we can see that Ukrainians have filled every seat in the transport compartment, and they are bringing 7 guys to clear out these Russian trenches. So they're probably bringing 1 or 2 machine guns, a bunch of RPGs, and every pocket is filled to the brim with hand grenades as they're going to clear out these trenches. Right, so by now we have 3 brigades that we know of that are operating the stridsfordon 9040, as we call it in Swedish, the CV90. And from the beginning, it appeared as if only the 21st Mechanized Brigade had the CV90s. Then we were told that the 93rd also got them, and now we have video footage of the 14th Mechanized Brigade relying on CV90s to assault Russian positions. So, as far as I know, these are the 3 brigades that are operating CV90s and appear to be doing so quite successfully at that. And as far as I understand it, this is roughly how these brigades are deployed along the front line, mainly focused on the northern part of the front line, from Kupiansk in the north down to Bakhmut. Also pointing out Avdiivka, since so you can get a frame of reference here. So we have the 14th up north around Sinkivka, then we have the 21st holding line at Terny, and then we have the 93rd fighting in and around Bakhmut. So this is where we are seeing CV90s holding the line against Russian aggression. And like I've said in a previous video, Sweden and Denmark are committed to making sure that Ukraine will get more CV90s, more spare parts, that they're gonna get more ammunition, and it's a bit unclear if they're gonna be getting CV90s with the 40 millimeter Bofors, or if they're gonna get a 30 or 35 millimeter chain gun, or whatever's gonna happen. But it appears as if Sweden and Denmark will produce a fresh batch of CV90s for Ukraine, and yeah, which is awesome. An awesome commitment from Sweden and Denmark, making sure that Ukraine has the weapons and the equipment they need to defend themselves from Russian aggression. And that's gonna have to be it for this time around. Look below in the description for links. I'm gonna